about day 4 of this. Sorry I'm a bit late today. I was driving a friend again today to work and I had to find the gas station and I got lost. Well, not really lost, but didn't know where I was going. Anyway, welcome to Make With Me. And I think I'm going to actually rename this series The Creative Space or Creator Space because what we're really doing here is creating a space. We're setting aside a space every day to work on those works in progress. And we're working on them together. So this is really just about me talking to you a little bit, but not about you really watching what I'm doing. It's not that interesting, really, but more about bringing your own work and whatever it is, whether it's knitting or sewing or quilting or whatever, painting, whatever creative project you have, baking. I've been doing some baking lately as well. That really gets my creative juices going. So I'm working on this quilt. It's one of my oldest works in progress, and I'm basically ripping out old quilting and redoing it because once I started doing the quilting, I realized it wasn't. I loved the wavy quilting lines. I thought they were really beautiful, but they weren't achieving what I had thought they were going to achieve in this quilt, and they were taking away from the center part, which I really wanted to emphasize. So I'm making good progress in this. And what I wanted to say to you today is to talk to you a little bit more about creative flow and why I do the exercise at the beginning where it's kind of a centering exercise. I call it the creative flow accelerator because I'm very woo-woo spiritual sort of person, but to a point because I get kind of put off by all that language that's so flowery that kind of evokes, unicorns and cotton candy clouds and all that kind of stuff that, getting in touch with your inner child. And I'm not trying to make fun of all this, but I'm just not that sentimental a person in that way. So this kind of language about, I don't know. Sometimes I don't want to make fun of what other people are doing in this space because I think there's a lot of really good stuff going on, and I follow a lot of those people who speak in that way. But sometimes it puts me off, and it's not my natural way of speaking, and I'm assuming it's not your natural way of speaking either. So for me, it makes much more sense to go, let's do the creative flow accelerator. Yeah, that sounds cool. Rather than let's do a magical centering experience, right? It's a little bit too touchy feely for me, and maybe that's something I need to work on, but who knows? Anyway, because I want to keep this. I'm a down to earth person. I live in the practical world. I do not live in the world where there are unicorns and cotton candy clouds, although it is kind of different from the world I used to live in when I was a lawyer and when I worked in the bank. They think I'm really wild and hippy dippy and woo woo by comparison to them. So, everything's relative, right? Perspective is really important. So, anyway, back to what I really wanted to talk to you about, which is about why it's important for me when I'm sewing to get into creative flow. First of all, the results are very different. Yeah. When I get away from that ego mind or asshole brain or, that chattery sort of negative inner critic kind of voice, the results that I get when I'm sewing or creating anything really, are so much better. It comes much more easily. It's much more accomplished and more powerful. So for example, like I can always tell when my inner critic is sneaking in, when I'm dropping a little bit out of creative flow and I'm allowing that inner critic voice to come in, because I'll be stitching along, especially if I'm doing something that's very precise. But even when I'm doing these, which are just sort of organic straight lines, I don't mark them and I just kind of gauge. So what will happen is in creative flow, I'm sticking in the present moment. I'm focusing strictly on what's in front of me. I'm letting go of everything I don't need. And I'm just focusing on that. And then all of a sudden I'll start thinking about something that's stressing me out, right? So I've been trying to get my website sorted. I've been trying to get the Creative Flow Accelerator recorded for you. And I just have tech issues with all of that. And it stresses me out a lot because I really want to get that out for you. And I'm working on a course about getting into creative flow and how you can do that more quickly and how you can increase your creativity generally. And all of that's stressing me out because I really need to get that out there. And when I start thinking about that, instead of focusing on the moment that I'm in, the moment of creating, the line that I'm stitching at this moment, whoa, goes completely skew with. I have to rip it out and do it again, right? So it's a form of being in the present moment, which everyone talks about. They call it mindfulness, but actually, you're moving sort of away from your mind, certainly away from that verbal part of your mind and into the nonverbal part of your mind and into your body and the nonverbal parts of your spirit and your soul and that whole connection. A lot of people refer to that as your mind, body, spirit. I usually say body, mind, spirit because I think we focus too much on the mind and not enough on the body. We need to shift that balance a little bit. And I was thinking about it last night when I couldn't fall asleep, and I thought, actually, maybe we should completely shift it around and say body, spirit, mind, and put mind last because we have so much emphasis on the mind already. And that's natural because the mind gives us that voice that's in our head, right? The voice that's our consciousness that talks to us all the time. It has that language, and so it kind of tries to dominate. So it's a little bit of a skill that we're learning in getting into creative flow, how to stop that ego mind, that verbal part of our brain, the inner critic. Some people give them a name. I never gave mine a name, but it's kind of a negative Nelly, that one. That sort of negative asshole brain sort of stuff. We're trying to stop that, right? We don't want it to be criticizing us, and we don't want it to be reminding us of all the crap we have to do. We don't want it to be telling us how crap we are because we haven't done all the crap we have to do, right? So we don't want that anywhere. We don't want that when we're creating, and we don't really want that in real life, do we? I mean, when you're working and you're working on a really cool project, or you're in a stressful situation at work because it can be kind of tricky, sometimes trying to deal with people, things happen. You have a disgruntled customer or whatever, it's a sticky situation. You don't want to be feeling stressed about all the stuff you have to do and the stress you have at home and all that. You want to be focusing on the present moment and keeping your focus on whatever you're working on, whether it's making that disgruntled customer happier or getting your project completed or coming up with a new idea to make your project work better, right? If you get into creative flow when you're in those situations, you can achieve those things much more easily. So, oh hi, I can't see who the visitor is, but I have a live watcher. It looks like it's welcome, welcome. I'm just talking about getting into creative flow and all the things it can do for us. So, creative flow is really useful. You don't have to just be sort of, sitting in a meditative state in an ashram somewhere where it's really quiet. To be in creative flow, you can be, or in your sewing room where it's really quiet. You can be out and about in the world and be in creative flow, and you'll be in a totally different headspace, and it will help you deal with those things. So, welcome. I'm about to start sewing. I'm still trying to source some royalty-free music that I can play during this time of this space that we're creating together. But I still can't find any that's affordable enough for the whole 20 minutes because they come in like short snippets, those royalty-free music bits. So anyway, normally in my sewing room, I have something like blues music or jazz music, just sort of in the background. And sometimes even depending on what I'm doing, I might have some classic rock and roll. But for now, you get to the birds were singing a little bit earlier, even though it's very cold here still. So you might hear some of the birds if you can hear them over my sewing machine. So I'm going to get set up and I'm going to set the timer. I hope you set the timer too. And I hope you brought your something to work on. Drop a comment if you'd like to and tell me what you're working on during this time. So we have 20 minutes here where we're going to spend together. This is a creative space, a space for creators and for creating. So this is about you and me creating together and make that space together. And even though we're far away, we're still sort of in a space together. So I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you get something done. And drop a comment and let me know what you're working on, and let me know how it's going. And I'll be back in 20 minutes to say goodbye. Okay, so I'm going to set my timer, and I've got my quilt set up here, and I'm going to get going with my quilting. Oh, so I'm going to do the exercise first. Sorry, I forgot. So we're going to do the thing to drop my Creative Flow Accelerator. I already talked about that a little bit. So let's do the Creative Flow Accelerator together. So we're going to sit comfortably or stand comfortably with your feet evenly and firmly pressed on the ground. So I want you to close your eyes and take a few deep breaths in through your nose and out through your nose. Yeah. Let go of everything that doesn't concern you right now. And do a little check in with your body. Start from the top of your head. And you're checking for stress, areas of stress and strain and discomfort. Move all the way down your head to the front of your head, your jaw. If something's stressed, just give it a little wiggle. Release the stress in your neck and your shoulders. Go all the way down. Keep breathing gently in through your nose and out through your nose, although not controlling it, just letting it go naturally. Go all the way down your arms and your hands. In your stomach, don't forget to release the strain in your stomach. I'm so used to holding my stomach in. Go all the way down your legs, your thighs. Release the strain in your thighs. Down your knees and your shins and your calves, all the way down to the bottom of your feet, and feel your feet firmly on the ground. And then wiggle your toes. Take a few more deep breaths in through your nose, out through your nose. And let go of everything that doesn't concern you right now. And focus on the space in between your eyes. Yeah, that empty space between your eyes and the back of your nose. And keep your focus there and centered. And as you continue to sew or create or knit or make, if your thoughts drift away, if some thoughts come in, just sort of gently release them and bring your focus back to what you're doing. So, happy sewing. Okay, that's your lot for today in the creator space, which I'm going to rename all these videos, hopefully, if I can figure out the tech. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Make sure you drop a comment. Let me know what you're working on. This is about setting aside a time and creating a space where you and I can work together and tap into the power of just small um, amounts of time. Yeah, remember I talked about checking some of my earlier videos if you haven't watched them. The power of such a small amount of time can yield big results, right? A little bit each day. So 20 minutes a day, or maybe if you double it, I'm going to double it after I go off camera because I have a little bit of time today. Maybe. I'm just going to finish off ripping out this one that went skew with a couple of days ago and is now throwing everything off, and I should have done it before. But anyway, this is about you tapping into the power of just making small steps and yielding big results with your old works in progress. This is one of my oldest. It's years old and is only a little bit left to do. So with just a few minutes every day for the next week or so, I think I can finish this quilt up. And then I won't just be a quilt starter, I'll be a quilt finisher. And you can be a creative project finisher as well. And that's important. These things are sitting around, and the fact that they're not finished, that kind of weighs on the rest of my creativity. So it's important for me to finish these things. Now, some of them you might look at it and go, I just have no more interest in this. I'm going to give, then you need to make a resolution. I mean, not a resolution to do something. I mean, you need to resolve these unfinished things that are lying around. If you don't want to work on them anymore, donate them, right? Give them away. Somebody else might want to work on them, schools or shelters or whatever. There are places where people can work on them. But don't leave them unresolved, because that will have an impact on you and your creativity. So this is also about getting into creative flow to tap into the power of small amounts of time and our creativity. So look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and let me know what you're working on.